living good back in the woods.
Okay guys, I want to take a real quick second before we shoot this video on snakebite to let you know, A, this is not medical advice, okay? I'm telling you what I know from research and past experience. And before I tell you this stuff and go through this with you on the board, I wanted to go through with you my past experience, okay? I handled venomous snakes and snakes in general for a living, okay? That's what I did. I did this for about 5 years. So I've handled not hundreds, but thousands of venomous snakes. And I have never been bitten by a venomous snake. So with that said, I think that prevention is the best thing that you can understand about snake bite. Don't get bit to begin with. Understand how not to get bit, and you won't get bit. But with that said, you know, we're going to talk about the things that you can do if you do get bit. But I just wanted you to understand, you know, that I'm not talking to you here from inexperience. I'm talking to you because I did this for a living for a long time, and I've handled lots and lots of snakes. I've handled every species in North America that's venomous, and probably 60% of the snakes that are venomous worldwide, up to and including king cobras. So I understand venomous snakes very, very well, probably as well as I understand the woods. And I want you to know that before you watch this video. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Okay, guys, real quick, I want to cover a topic with you real fast while we're on this medicinal plant series. I want to talk about snake bite. I seem to get a lot of questions about that in any medicinal series that I do, anything like that. People are always worried about getting a snake bite in the woods. Again, prevent the situation before it happens so you can be proactive and not reactive. Don't step over the top of a log without stepping on the log and looking to the other side. Don't put your hands in cracks and crevices. Don't be where the snakes are going to be, and you can cure a lot of those problems. Listen when you're walking through the woods in case you come across a rattlesnake. He's going to let you know he's there before you stomp on him. You know, water moccasins, things like that, most of the time they'll open their mouth. You know, a big mistake I see from 90% of the students that I've been around is they don't know the difference between a water snake and a water moccasin. And they can imitate a water snake can imitate a water moccasin very well. The only thing he can't do is open his mouth. That's the telltale sign. When they open their mouth and you see that big white mouth on the inside, you're probably dealing with a water moccasin. At that point, you're going to see the fangs. Okay? Just back away. Most venomous snakes, if you back away from them slowly, they'll go the other way anyway. They don't want to come after you and attack you. So, if you get a snake bite, let's talk about that. All right? First of all, I don't want to give you medical advice, okay? So this is my personal opinion. It is not medical advice. So, with that said, what you have to understand is there are two different types of snake venom in the United States for the most part, but we're talking about eastern woodlands. We're not talking about the desert, okay? The Mojave green rattlesnake is different. They have a different type of venom. Some of them in certain areas of Arizona have type A, type B venom. We're not going to talk about that. We're talking about eastern woodlands right here, okay? So we're talking about what are you going to run into in eastern woodlands, okay? You're going to run into rattlesnakes. Could be a pygmy rattler, could be a timber rattler, could be a bubblegum sulfur-faced timber rattler, could be a green timber rattler, could be an eastern diamondback if you're down south. Rattlesnakes, period, okay? Copperheads. Water moccasins, and coral snakes. Now, let's talk about coral snakes for a minute, okay? Coral snakes are the most lethal of all of these venomous snakes. The reason is, coral snakes are what's called elapids, okay? They're not pit vipers, they're not crotalids, they are elapids. They are in the same family with cobras, okay? Their venom is completely different. Most of the venom from pit vipers, like water moccasins, copperheads, and rattlesnakes, is hemotoxic venom. It attacks your blood system. It gives you blood poisoning. Elapids, their venom will attack your nervous system. And there's a big difference as far as what you have to do to treat each one of those. What I'll tell you about coral snakes is this. You have to work to get bit by a coral snake, okay? They don't get very big. Their head doesn't get any bigger than the size of my thumb. And you have to pick one up and molest it to get bit by it. You're not going to walk by a coral snake because they hide underneath of things. They go underneath logs. They go underneath pieces of tin and sheet metal in the woods. That's where you got to be careful if you're scavenging for junk, okay? But they're going to hide. They're not out running around like a water moccasin looking for food in broad daylight beside the pond because they eat fish and frogs. They're going to be hiding. You've got to work hard to get bit by a coral snake, all right? If you get bit by one of these guys, shame on you. It's your own fault. I can guarantee you it was no accident, okay? The point is, coral snakes are bad news, all right? We'll talk about them last, okay? Rattlesnakes, copperheads, water moccasins, okay? Everyone can have different levels of allergicness or allergies to venoms, just like they do with bee stings or anything else, okay? Sucking out venom doesn't work. Cutting it open and sucking on it doesn't work. Venom extractors do not work, okay? Forget all of those things. Tourniquets, bad news, not advised, okay? Even things that you've heard in the past where you are supposed to close off the lymphatic area, those don't work with these type things. Those are better for coral snakes, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So what do you do if you get bit by one of these snakes? Well, there's not a whole lot you can do, all right? What you have to understand is that a lot of bites that you get from snakes, especially pit vipers, okay, are dry bites. And what that means is he bit you, but he didn't inject any venom. It's a bump bite, okay? It's a reaction. Most larger snakes realize that you're not prey. They just want to get you away from them, and sometimes they'll give you a dry bite. Most of the time, if a smaller snake bites you, a baby snake of these species, it's almost always going to be a wet bite. So that means that he's injected venom into you. Immediate signs of envenomation are pain, swelling in the immediate area, nausea of the stomach, headache, vomiting within, a few minutes or an hour. Those things will tell you that you've been envenomated by a venomous snake. What can you do about these things? Okay. We're going to go back to one plant and one plant only that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the master drawing plant, plantain, okay? A plantain poultice will draw out some of the venom. It's not going to get it all. It's not going to suck it out magically, but it will help, all right? So you can wrap that wound area. If you've got 2 puncture marks from the fangs, you can wrap that wound with a spit poultice made from plantain, and it will help draw out some of the venom. It's also a little bit anti-inflammatory. What you need to do with this is you need to wrap it and immobilize it as if it were a fracture, okay? That's all you can do. Immobilize it like a fracture so you're not moving it around a whole bunch. Put a splint all the way down your leg if you've gotten bit, in the ankle or above the leg in the calf somewhere, okay? Splint that thing off. If you're by yourself, the best thing you can do is get out, but don't panic. Do not panic when you get bitten by a snake because it makes everything go faster. It makes your circulatory system run faster. And remember what I said, it's blood poisoning from these pit vipers. You want to avoid that, okay? So you have to remain calm, but you do want to get out. If you can, if you're with someone that gets a snake bite, the best thing you can do for them is to lay them prone and keep that limb immobilized, but not above heart level and not below heart level, at heart level. Evened out. Laying flat on the ground is the best thing you can do, and seek medical attention for them as quickly as possible. I will tell you that not too many people in the United States die every year from snake bites, okay? Of the 3 snakes, in my personal opinion, copperheads are the least likely to do anything more than make you really, really sick, okay? Water moccasins have an enzyme in their venom that causes necrosis, and so do rattlesnakes, but copperheads are notorious for it because water moccasins, are notorious for it because they have a very dirty mouth. They eat fish and frogs and things like that. They just have a lot of bacteria in their mouth generally, and they have a tendency to get infected very easily, but they also have a necrotic enzyme in their venom, and that's all venoms are proteins and enzymes that helps break down skin. So, you're going to lose some skin around a bite area or a finger or whatever the case may be for sure most of the time from a water moccasin bite. Rattlesnake bites have the same thing. They do have some necrosis value in the enzymes of their venom as well. But rattlesnake bites are rattlesnake bites are going to be worse depending on the rattlesnake, okay? But rattlesnake bites are going to be the worst of all the 3. But very few people die from these type snake bites. If you can get out, you know, if you have to sit there and suffer for several days, then you might have a problem if you can't tend to yourself. One thing that you need to remember with any snake bite is it's probably going to make you nauseous. You're probably going to vomit. So make sure that you have plenty of hydration. Keep yourself hydrated so you don't succumb to the dehydration before you succumb to the venom to begin with. Okay? Anti-venoms are not recommended in the woods. They are recommended in hospitals, but not in the woods. Now, if an EMT administered that to you, that's one thing. But to carry anti-venom is useless. The one thing that you can carry with you that is something I suggest carrying anyway is an EpiPen. Okay? Anaphylactic shock comes from the same things in snakes that it can come from in bee stings. It's the venom. It's the protein and the enzymes in that venom that cause anaphylactic shock. So if you get to the point where you're having a hard time breathing, EpiPen. Pow! Okay? That's one thing you can do to help yourself. But remaining calm, staying hydrated, not using that limb a lot if you can help it, or immobilizing it so that maybe you're just limping and you're not just moving it up and down and circulating that blood so much, or forcing it to happen, is the best thing you can do. If you can get out quick, get out. If you can't get out quick, you're going to have to deal with it. But there's a lot of people paranoid about snakes that I get questions from every day. Don't be paranoid of them. Respect them. You don't have to kill everyone you see. Be able to identify them. If you can identify these 4 snakes, nothing else matters. It's very much like any dangerous plant or any dangerous animal. There's a lot less of them that are dangerous than there are that are not dangerous. So learn to identify the ones that are dangerous, and then you don't have to worry about the rest. Okay? And these are the main 4 that you're going to run to in eastern woodlands. Okay? And coral snakes, you're only going to run into down south or on the east coast, southern east coast. Water moccasins, copperheads, and rattlesnakes are going to be the most likely ones you're going to run into. All right? And even water moccasins are not very prevalent, you know, up above Kentucky. Copperheads, another story. Copperheads are all over the place up here. Rattlesnakes, depends on the terrain, depends on the environment, okay? But there's more species of rattlesnakes in eastern woodlands than the rest of these things combined, because you have timber rattlers, you have pygmy rattlers, and you have diamondback rattlers. So you have 3 species of rattlesnakes that you could be contending with, then copperheads, water moccasins, and the last one is the coral snake. Now the coral snake, if you get bit by a coral snake, that's going to be a big problem, okay? But the chances are, if you get bit by a coral snake, it's going to be on an extreme extremity, a finger, a toe, something like that is where you're going to get bit. Their mouth isn't big enough, and they don't jump up to bite you. They're jerky. They just kind of jerk around. You can, I shouldn't say you can pick them up. I've picked many of them up. But they're very jerky. They're not going to just turn around and strike at you like a pit viper will. They don't coil up and strike. They just kind of jerk around and try to grab a hold of you and chew on you. All right? Like I said, you got to work hard to get bit by a coral snake. If you get bit by one, here's the thing. All right? This is the one that's the worst, because they are elapids and they have cobra-like venom. They're neurotoxic venom. All right? And you have to be careful with that. So that's the point where you want to wrap it so that you don't get that spread through the lymph system. Okay? That's where you want to not put a tourniquet on it, but wrap it and constrict it, okay? Constrict that limb. So if it's a finger, I'd go all down the arm and constrict that, okay? If it's a toe, all down the leg and constrict that, because you don't want that venom to spread. That's the problem. You don't want it to spread through the lymphatic system. That's what you got to watch with coral snakes, okay? You get bit by a coral snake, you better get some medical attention, because you're going to be in trouble with that one. But like I said, you got to work at it to do that. Okay guys, I'm Dave Canterbury at the Pathfinder School. I appreciate you watching this video. I appreciate your support. I appreciate everything that you guys do for me, my school, and my family. And I will be back with another video just as soon as I can.